South. It's hot. College football is a hot topic. Rob Browne, Brenden Martin here on this Monday morning, June 23rd, 2025. Get your coffee.
Get your DoorDash coffee. It's hot in Florida always.
Yeah, it really is. And I tell you what, lot to talk about today. Take a picture with your cellular phone of the QR codes because we are live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. 7 channels live. And then, or catch us later at your leisure and share the show.
At your leisure.
Get into our chat room. We love it when y'all have questions for us, for our guests, whatever. But join the chat room. Brenden does an awesome job of assimilating a lot of information, put it out there. So
join the collective, assimilate, my friend.
Yes, join the collective assimilation. But look, we got Ralph Russo, senior college football writer, The Athletic, formerly 20 years, AP's national college football writer, batting in the leadoff. Jacques Doucet checking in live, I believe, still in Omaha. We're going to get the update on the shot record at Rocco's. And then a really neat guest, man, Dr. Pete Indelicato, former team doctor for the Florida Gators, New York Giants, and the Miami Dolphins. And he's got a big story about NIL and the medical world and how there may be a clash of ideas. And there's a lot of questions being asked. So we're going to cover it all. Best full 60 minutes anywhere on the SEC. So let's get started with Ralph Russo up in Brooklyn. Ralph, I know you've got a busy morning. Love having you on here anytime we can get you. Let's start off. I got on the Athletic website yesterday. You are putting out so much content. People, read. Reading is like lifting weights with your brain. Celebrate the writers like Buddy Martin, Ralph Russo, Tony Barnhart. You're a gift with what you're writing about the CFP. So the ball is yours. So let's go.
Good to see you guys. Yeah, there's certainly a lot going on, or it feels well. Actually, the problem is there's not enough going on. Right? They're not getting stuff done. They're talking a lot, and their wheels are spinning, but we're not getting a lot done with the playoff in terms of what the thing is going to be like. Hey, we're 18 months away from the 2026 playoff, and we have no idea what it's going to be.
Wow.
Right? We don't know how many teams are going to be in it. We don't know what the format is going to be. So I think it'll get fixed. They have to get it fixed. And maybe the fix will be it'll just stay the same. I didn't think that would be a possibility, a few months ago. But I think that's at least that is at least a possibility. I think that's an option on the table. But there's a lot of spinning the wheels right now, trying to get past what seems to be a little bit of an impasse right now, mostly between the SEC and the Big Ten.
What about the ACC and the Big 12? How much of a role can they play?
So they're a little limited because the contract that was signed that will kick in starting in 2026 really does put the emphasis on the Big Ten and the SEC figuring it out. They have the most revenue from the playoff. They have the most decision-making power. Now, do they need to consult the Big 10, the Big 12? Do they need to consult the ACC and the other conferences? Yes, there needs to be input from the other conferences and the other people sitting at the table. But it's one of the reasons why this process has become kind of janky. You have a room of 11 people that get together, 10 conference commissioners, Notre Dame's athletic director.
Yeah.
And then after they're done talking, quite literally, they break off into a room of 4, the Power 4, the Big 12, Big 10, SEC, ACC. And those commissioners get together and they sort of talk about what they just talked about. And then, but really what you need is a room of 2, right? It's a phone call between Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti. So just the idea that you have this process that is supposed to be, that sort of feigns all inclusiveness with this large group, and then in some ways gives a nod to the 4 as if they have equal power. But in reality, it's a 2-man show here. Like that alone shows you that this is not the most efficient way to do things.
Yeah. Ralph, when you also talk about the strength of schedule, they want to change how they do that, use a different metric. Expand on that if you would, please.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's something that is really going to be that dramatic, because it is what the idea is we're going to create a strength of record metric and include it in the data and information that we give to the selection committee. it wouldn't necessarily, at least right now, the talk is it wouldn't necessarily be a component on its own that is balanced against the selection committee. In other words, like think back to the BCS days, they had a bunch of computers, and that was 1/3 of a formula, and then the human polls were another 2/3 of a formula. This is more of, we're going to give the committee a metric, a strength of record metric, which, has some components of like how good your conference is and maybe what your non-conference schedule is. And we're going to hand it to the committee and ask them to use it as a guide. Okay. And maybe we're going to rewrite their protocols a little bit in terms of what's supposed to be important, but it'll still be a process where the committee is involved. And I think that's the problem. Again, like that doesn't seem to be a really big fix if you're worried about the selection process, which is where we are right now with the conferences.
Hey, everybody, go to The Athletic, subscribe. It's like lifting weights with your brain. We need more of that in this society than ever. Ralph, the Big 12 proposed a 16-team bracket with 11 at large and 5. It's called the 5-11. I like what Lane Kiffin said, I think at the spring meetings in Destin, about I like a straight seed, man, 16. Yeah. I'm been a financial advisor in the stock market. I love the free market, man, and you live up there. But it's the American dream. What are you in favor of?
So I understand the idea of 5-11. You have to understand, if you exclude the group of, now I guess it would be considered the group of 6 because the Pac-12 is no longer really a power conference. If you completely exclude them, and this was the situation with the BCS. I think there is a possibility you could end up in some legal trouble here, right? The contracts are written in a way to kind of give some access, and I do think there is. It's worthy to give access to some of these other conferences. I will say this, though. I think in Lane's idea, and it's not just unique to Lane, but he did come out and say it at the spring meetings, and I applauded Lane for that. I wrote a column. I called him, the voice of reason in college football. Who would have thunk it? Lane Kiffin. Yeah. So the idea being that, like, I think if you go to 16 and you straight seed this thing, for the most part, you will get 4, probably 5 conference champions all involved. So that's why I tend to lean a little bit more towards 5-11. The idea of the AQs, I can see it. It's been explained to me a lot. I see the benefits of it. But to me, I worry a little bit about marginalizing these other conferences, codifying that they are half of what the SEC and the Big 12 are. So whether we'll get there or not, I'm not necessarily sure. But I do see the benefits of going to 16, having 11 at-large bids. That's pretty close to what Lane said as sort of the best 16. I think more often than not, that would look very similar.
Yeah, and that means a lot when you say what you just said, because you travel the country. You lived in the bold new city for 5 or 6 years, Jackson, Mississippi, the capital.
We did.
20 years, AP's national college football writer. So you speak with a lot of street cred, as they say. What about no more buys for the top 4 conference champions? Because all 4 teams last year that did have a bye lost. If that means anything.
That is something that we know is going to happen this year. The one thing they have gotten accomplished, right?
Yeah.
They made a tweak for this year's 12-team format. In 2025, we're still going to have a similar system to last year. And the buys will now go to whoever are the top 4 seeds by the committee's ranking. So to give you an example, just in case it's easier probably to talk about it this way. Last year, the buys went to Oregon, Georgia, Boise State, Arizona State, because they all won conference championships. If they had gone with just a straight seeding, the buys would have gone to Oregon, Georgia, Texas, and Penn State. So regardless of conference, you just end up with those teams. And I do think that's probably the best way to do it going forward. You got to remember, again, we talk about the Power 5, Power 4, G6, G5. When this playoff was built, in 2021, there was a Power 5, right?
That's right.
The lay of the land was very different. You had Texas and Oklahoma in the Big 12. You had USC and Oregon and a couple of other teams back in the Pac-12, and the Pac-12 was still a Power 5 conference. So it was built with the idea that, well, the Power 5 conferences, those teams more often than not are in the top 6, top 7, maybe, at worst the top 10. So we should maybe give them a little deference and give them a bye. But that's gone now. And obviously, the conferences look very, very different. So I do think going to straight seeding makes a lot of sense. That'll be for this year. We know we have a 12-team playoff this year. We know the way it's going to be seeded. Yeah. It's just 2026 and beyond has become a real messy process. Again, going back to because the decision-making process and the structure of it is not very good.
Ralph, I think people need to understand, and you do such an excellent job at breaking this down, and we appreciate it so much because this is tough stuff to really understand, and you seem to have a great handle on it. But talk to just logistically, what people have to understand: the planning for some these seasons aren't just the season often before. It's done 3 to 5 seasons out where you're going to go. I mean, I worked in broadcast TV 15 years. There's coordination here that needs to happen on a level that most people just don't understand. Talked about how that is going to impact this next season because we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah, and that's the strange thing. Again, you're talking about 2026. Yeah. And you don't know how many teams. Now, again, it's doable. It's doable to add a few more games. They have ideas about where they might be played. There's still going to be first-round games played on home campuses. Most likely the quarters and the semis and the championship game. There's a site for a championship game. That's going to be in Las Vegas. Their bowl games are sort of set. So a lot of the logistics for 2026, the framework is there. But as you said, it's not ideal if you're going to add. Right now, there would be 4 first-round games. In a 16, the way it's formatted, they would add 2 more first-round. Well, not even 2 more. I think it's actually 4 more first-round games. But the idea that they don't know if that's going to happen for your television partners, for your logistics, for promoting the thing. You would like that wrapped up more than 18 months in advance. Now, again, they can do it. They have proven before that because there are no hard deadlines, they can do things. They can get things in place quickly. But it's just not ideal. And again, it's also not ideal because it's so unclear what the solution will be going forward.
Ralph, another one before you go, a couple of minutes. I promised we'd get you out at 20 after because you are on a schedule. I want to get you back. That's the main reason. But before you go, the Big 10 and the Big 12 each play 9 conference games. Obviously, SEC and ACC only play 8. Do you see them going to 9? And how much is that going to matter in the long run anyway?
So I'm glad you brought that up. And, I was a little late, so I'm happy to give you a couple extra minutes here to make up for that time. That seems fair. So it really is. It's so interesting because the whole argument or debate about how this playoff should be structured in 2026 does really come down to a local issue first. Okay. Right? All politics are local to a certain degree.
Yeah.
The SEC doesn't know what it wants to do with its schedule, right? It's a little in between. Should we play 8? Should we play 9? 9 could probably get them some more money from ESPN. I think Greg Sankey would like 9. It just provides a lot more opportunities to play rivalry games, create a little more revenue. There's a lot of reasons to like going to 9. But obviously, if you go to 9, that means you sprinkle 9 more losses, right, among the teams because it's just math, right? If you're playing each other and you play an extra game, a bunch more teams are going to lose games. So I think that coaches and athletic directors look at the playoff and the selection process and go, well, last year our 9-3 teams didn't make it because they were so focused on the 3 in the loss column. If we start sprinkling more losses, that's going to hurt us in getting in the playoff. Yeah. And the Big 10 is like, well, welcome to our world. If we're going to play for the same championship and we're going to kind of do things the same way. If we're going to, we have to operate under the same structures leading into the playoff. So it's this catch-22. Let me explain it to you. The SEC doesn't want to make an answer. They don't want to come to a decision on their conference schedule, 8 or 9, until they know what the playoff is going to look like, right?
Yeah.
The Big Ten says, we're not going to make a decision on what the playoff looks like until you make a decision on whether there are 8 or 9 conference games played in your conference. So what happens first? In other words, if we're sitting around going, well, as soon as you tell us what the playoff was going to be, we'll decide 8 or 9. And the Big Ten goes, well, as soon as you decide 8 or 9, we'll tell you what we want out of the playoff. What are we doing, guys?
Yeah. Okay. So financially, if you add that 9th game, what does that mean per school from the TV contracts?
Yeah, I haven't gotten a perfect read on that, but I also don't think let's throw some numbers around. It's a little bit of speculation, but let's throw some numbers around. I doubt it's more than $50 million a year, which, to you and I, that's real money.
Yeah.
But for 16 SEC schools, even if it's 50, and maybe it might be 50, maybe it might be a little less, but let's say it's 50.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about 2 point what? I mean, I'm not, you're the financial guy, 2 point whatever, 16 divided by 50, right?
Yeah, it's 3.3.
Yeah. So that's not again, to you and I, that's real money. But for SEC schools with budgets of $200 million, there are some who will say, you know what, making the playoff actually, if I have a better road to the playoff, $3 million and change isn't really changing my lot in life.
Yeah, that's right.
So there's a little bit of a balance there where, I've had conversations with some SEC ADs to just that effect. It's yeah, of course, we all need more money now. We're paying the players. Everybody's looking for every last nickel within the couch cushions here. But, again, I can weigh that money that I'll get from ESPN against playoff money, not just playoff money in terms of the share that you get from the playoff, but sort of the ancillary effects of being able to get in the playoff, right? I make a playoff game. Now my season tickets are a little easier to sell the next year. I can promote things a little easier. So you can find your way to $2.5 to $3 million in a lot of different ways.
Ralph, we'll let you go, letting people know how they can follow you and what are you writing about, because it's everybody needs to be following you.
So the best way to follow me is on whatever your social media platform or preference is, whether it's X or Blue Sky. I'm at Ralph D. Russo ATH, Ralph D. Russo ATH for The Athletic. Or of course, you go to theathletic.com. I think that we are the best sports coverage on the internet, whether it's college football or otherwise. Even though I'm there, I think that we got a lot of good teammates. I got a lot of good teammates. So because it's you got a lot more than just me. So please do that. As far as what I'm covering, well, I'm about to take a little bit of vacation. So I'm going to take a breath because I think there's no off season anymore in this sport. So I'm going to try to take a breath. But yeah, college football coverage is going to be college football playoff. And because this is a little bit, I wouldn't say a standoff, but we're at a little bit of an impasse. That's going to take up a lot of my time. And you know what? Then we get to start talking about the season in games. Yeah. And writing about what the 2025 season is going to look like, which we are all very, very excited for.
Absolutely. Let's do it again soon. Have a great vacation. Thanks always, more than you know.
Very much appreciate you guys. Thank you very much.
All righty. We got Jacques Doucet checking in right now. Jacques, I'm going to guess you are in Omaha.
Yeah, I'm still here. We booked a one-way flight over here. That's the way you got to do it, right? Because you don't know how long you're staying. So I'm flying back tomorrow. So I may go see the zoo today and go do some other things in Omaha before we leave.
I got to say this. About a month ago, I was down in Birmingham, staying out there at the Hampton Inn on 280 with Miss Vivian Glover and Mountain Brook. Went down and ate at a new little restaurant. Been there about a year in Mountain Brook Village called Rougarou. And I'm telling you, it was delicious. Absolutely awesome. All right, got a lot of acronyms from my LSU friends from Lake Charles that are in our hunting club that are not permittable for the public purview. You know those initials, but they were pretty excited. These are LSU guys that, I mean, they are all in. Tanner Stein and Quentin Stein and Jared Montague. Big win, 8th national championship. Frank Duffy and them went fishing out in Grand Isle or Venice, and they all flew up there for the game yesterday. So first off, update us, Rocco's. What was the shot count at last report?
You know, we were having a beer last night at a place called the Trap Room, and the manager came in. I think LSU ended up at 48,000 or something like that, almost 50,000. I think there were just a couple of LSU fans who were puking on the patio, and so they had to shut the patio down early if I'm on one of the days. And then it was so hot out there too as well. But yeah. I don't think they touched, 2 years ago. That's going to be hard to touch. The first time LSU really came up here with that whole Jello shot thing going on, and Todd Graves putting up money and Gordon McKernan putting up money. They hit 68,000 that year, I think. So, yeah. So there you go. But
well, I'm just telling you, we were watching that game yesterday. There was some wind, a report of some actual wind in Omaha, but how hot was it? And what was the crowd? LSU fans, this is now 20 of the last 40 years. They've got to have a large following in Omaha.
Oh, it's ridiculous. I mean, it literally is like if you put the stadium in Baton Rouge to an extent. I mean, if there's 25,000 people there, it's got to be 80% at least purple and gold up in the stands. I mean, they're doing the national championship celebration and bringing the team up on stage and all of that, and you're looking up in the stands, and really everybody is still there, cheering on the team. So you're talking about, like you said, 20 trips to the World Series since 1986. You're talking about 8 national championships since 1991. The icon Skip Bertman was there. They were able to get him. He was on the field. Tough year for Skip. His wife has passed away. He was in a wheelchair, but he was there. But now you got, look, Skip built it. Obviously, Skip inherited nothing and built it into into a dynasty. But now you got Jay Johnson, who's not even 50 years old, who's won 2 national titles in his first 4 years as the head coach. And this guy is just relentless. So, I mean, he could coach easily. I could easily see Jay Johnson being in his 70s, still coaching baseball. So that might be a stretch. But, I mean, even if he shut it down at 60, 20 years from now, at 68 or something, I mean, how many national titles is he going to win? It's going to be amazing to watch.
Well, I love it, Maury D. Gaston. Jacques, go to the Railroad Museum in Omaha. You can do a zoo. And that, by the way, that's where Marlon Perkins, Mutual of Omaha, the Omaha Zoo, if you get a chance, there's only one Transcontinental Railroad Museum. And then Blind Squirrel Sports, congrats from a dog to LSU. You're fighting Tigers, 25 national champions. Jacques is in Gomaha. Now, how many T-shirts? Can you get us a T-shirt if I Venmo you the funds for Brenden and me, a Gomaha shirt?
Oh, yeah, a Gomaha. Well, probably can find you one. I don't know when the celebration in Baton Rouge is going to be. Before I left, I heard the rumor was going to be Wednesday. So I know 2 years ago they did a celebration in Alec Box, and it was wall-to-wall. We had 10,000 people there or something like that. So they're going to do that again, I'm sure. It's going to be hot and sticky and sweaty, but they'll pack him in again, I'm sure, to put another one up on the Intimidator out in right field, another 2025 up there.
Watching that game, LSU's, I think it was Chris Lee of Southeastern 16 is on with us a lot out of Nashville, really knows SEC baseball. In talking about Arkansas and LSU, he said, LSU 1 through 4, I like their pitchers better. 1 through 10, I like Arkansas. Well, Arkansas's pitchers showed up, but the bats didn't come to life until late. LSU, there's something in the DNA. They're not wired like other programs. I mean, how many of these kids are in state versus out of state or out of the Southeastern footprint? I mean, because they've got a lot of local kids.
Yeah, I think it's a good mix. Off the top of my head, Ethan Fry's from Louisiana. Jake Brown is from Louisiana. Kade Anderson, the ace, He's from Louisiana. They've got a kid named William Schmidt, who's going to be an outstanding pitcher who passed on the major leagues to come to LSU. Josh Pearson. I mean, those are a few off the top of my head. But they've also got your Derek Curiel, who's from California, Stephen Milam from New Mexico, Anthony Ionson's from California. I mean, Jay Johnson, like you said, he's missed some of his best friends getting married to go on recruiting trips and go bring guys to come play baseball to LSU. So, you know, he is the perfect modern day coach in terms of attacking the portal. And I think LSU's got proper NIL support for its baseball program as well. And so it's a good blend. I mean, you definitely have the guy on the LSU team like a Jake Brown who says, this is what I dreamed to be. I dreamed to play at LSU. I think other guys have said, you know, the dream wasn't the major leagues. It was LSU to win a national title. So you want those kind of guys, but then you also have to recruit the entire country, and LSU's done that.
Yeah, and here's a question from, I think that's Blind Squirrel Sports. Any thoughts on the umpire tripping last night? I like that term. I don't think the Coastal Carolina coach deserved to be tossed. And the debate was among people I was watching it with, you know, I said, well, on that biggest stage, do you do that? But rules are rules. But what are your thoughts on that? And did it matter?
Yeah, big debate on that. I mean, certainly it seemed to be there was a large contingent of baseball people that thought that the umpire was far too soft, far too reactionary, that you don't do that. You don't throw a guy out in the first inning of a national championship game like that. And, yeah, I mean, I'm you know, you're up in a press box, which is pretty high, and all of a sudden you just hear cheering and what is going on, and then I look to my right and I see some guy stumbling and falling on his back, and I'm like, did he push it? What happened? And I think Coastal's coach there made a pretty funny comment after the game about he's not it's not his responsibility, another grown man's athleticism or lack thereof that he fell down. But then there were some others that said, you know, you can't argue balls and strikes, and the rules are rules, and you don't make special accommodations because it's the national championship and it's the first inning. So I don't know. Jay Johnson said that that's his friend, and that he was so locked in the game, he kind of missed the whole thing and what happened there. So, but it was definitely highly unusual and very unique what happened there. And so, did it impact the game? I mean, when you lose your head coach and you lose your first base coach, and all of a sudden a national championship do or die game is put in charge of some guys who aren't used to leading the program, I guess it did impact it. But I think LSU had the better team regardless.
Yeah, and I want to make sure I say this. I don't want to detract at all because, you know, people will say sometimes, well, if it hadn't rained, we'd have won. Well, dumbass, it rained on both teams. You know, people, that drives me crazy. LSU clearly the best team in all of college baseball. Look, a few more minutes before you go, we've got Dr. Pete Indelicato in the green room, former team doctor for Florida, the Giants and the Dolphins. Going to have an interesting discussion, Jacques, about NIL and doctors and kids under contract and how that's working. It's a big story he broke last Monday on the Brenden Martin show, which is on this channel, 9 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Thursday. Watch it and learn, folks. Jacques, before you head back and go to the Omaha Zoo and the Railroad Museum today, we've got your day planned for you. I want to tell you how big a deal it is. I texted you late yesterday, and you're incredibly kind to do what you do. And I let people know how they can follow you, and we'll let you get rolling. But it means a lot to our viewers to have somebody live from Omaha. And if you find those shirts, I'll Venmo you one for Brenden, an extra large, me a large, and get it to you, and I'll give you some spending money.
I appreciate it. My name there is Jacques Doucet on Twitter or X, my Facebook page as well. We are WAFB TV. And I'm another interesting thing is there's a gentleman's club like right next door. It's like a little bit down, and there's a sign up front, and it's BYOB. So apparently you
sent that to me.
So it's like what can go wrong there, right?
Mm-hmm.
You sent that message out the other night, and I was like, absolutely nothing. Please move along. Nothing to see.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's funny out west how they do all that stuff. There's a lot of different rules. We won't break it down, but I'm from Colorado, so there's interesting reasons why it's BYOB, but that is another show.
Well, there's nothing better than opening of pheasant season out in Kimball and Mitchell, South Dakota.
Yeah.
At the Congo Club. It is unbelievable. That's a gentleman's club there in Mitchell, South Dakota, home of the Corn Palace, where former Florida Gator Mike Miller played his basketball before he went to the Grizzlies. But Jacques, man, get some rest, but have fun at the zoo. And I love that. What could possibly go wrong? BYOB. I love it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jacques.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you. I love it. All right, let me say something real quick before we bring in Dr. Pete Indelicato. And I got a chance to talk to him off air. Thank you, Buddy Martin, for the introduction. We have a great sponsor, Winter Timber Outdoors in Athens, Alabama, on top of the state. Look at your map between Florence and Huntsville. Their plan is to grow in the footprint that is the Southeastern Conference. All your hunting and fishing and outdoor needs, they've got them all covered. They're building a 13,000 square foot store right now on University Drive in Auburn, expected to open the first week of August. Now's the time to plan for deer season. Get your food plots. You better be doing it now. A lot of those are 90-day crops. Trust me, I live in Memphis. We're just surrounded by farmland. But Winter Timber Outdoors, follow them, buy from them. They're great folks to work with. Dr. Pete Indelicato. I didn't see that, Brenden. Dr. Pete Indelicato, we lost his picture. But when you, Dr. Pete, okay.
Yeah, hold on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Did your screen go to black or fall asleep on you?
Yeah, hold on.
It's kind of goofy like that.
Oh boy.
That's all right. You want to come back in? You can just hang up and then and try it again. It should work. All right.
I'll do that.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. All right, great.
Brenden, I got it. That was funny. You brought that up. You saw that post from Jacques in Omaha. BYOB at a gentleman's club. What could possibly go wrong? I mean, nothing.
No, I didn't see that post. It's just the thing out west of why they do that, and they do that because it's an all naked show, so they can't serve alcohol when there's no bottoms on. Rob. God, you guys are it's like your first day every day. You guys have never heard of this? Like this is a normal thing, okay? When they're all naked, you got to bring your own beer in. That's how it works. Not that I go to these places. I'm not a strip club.
Yeah, the Congo Club in Mitchell. Everybody's in there wearing orange hats and orange vests because it's pheasant season in the Midwest. Brenden, real quick before we get to Dr. Pete, growing up in Colorado, I have some friends that have invited me to come out to Frisco, Colorado. It's like 9,100 feet. When you lived out there, did you ever? They have moose in their backyard, so it's crazy. But
it's all how it is out there. Frisco is up in the mountains. You're up there at there's Central Exchange up there. Frisco is right after the foothills, and you get up there. So, Dr. Pete, you look great. How are you, sir?
Oh, good. How are you guys doing this morning?
Great.
All right,
Dr. Pete Indelicato, you were a longtime team doctor for the Florida Gators, New York Giants, Miami Dolphins. It was neat having a discussion. How many doctors that I know that you know, and of course you go to medical conferences all over the country, like Dr. Andrews. This is a privilege to have you on here. You broke a story on the Buddy Martin show last Monday night on this channel about NIL, doctors, and what might be happening going forward. So tell us about that.
Yeah, happy to talk about that, Rob. Now that athletes at the college level, of course, this has always been going on at the professional level, have a designated dollar value to them, the physician who manages their health, their injuries, their surgical procedures, what have you, their exposure to liability goes up quite a bit in certain particular situations. And just to give you a sort of a broad example, if an athlete runs a 4.340, okay, let's say a wide receiver, before he tears his ACL, and after you fix his ACL, he runs a 4.540, his dollar value is affected. And in today's litigious society,
Yep.
it's not unusual for somebody to blame for that. And physicians who are involved in the care of that athlete are now being not just theoretically exposed, but in fact actually exposed. So even though there's no doubt at all that there is benefits to athletes having and deserve a monetary reimbursement or award for what they do, there's obviously a downside or an opposite side to that. So that's what I was talking to you about earlier, Rob, and it's just beginning to be addressed in its earliest stages at the NC2A and the college level. So,
Dr. Pete, I noticed last year, a couple of years ago, Rocket Sanders, running back at Arkansas, was injured, and he went out during the season and left Arkansas and went to Dallas to do his rehab. You were at Florida, and of course with the Giants and the Dolphins as well. Was that something that ever happened? I mean, because that would be tough if you're the doctor, and I know you have a team that you work with. That would drive me crazy as a doctor.
Yeah, it's certainly a lot more common now than it was 10, 15 years ago, where athletes, for whatever reason, advice from an uncle or maybe now an agent that they go off to some other physician, and that's just the way the world is. You can't make an athlete stay locked into a certain doctor. You don't. In fact, you don't want an athlete locked into you because that just raises the bar. If you don't get that exact same outcome that the athlete wants, it's very easy for him to say, well, golly, if I went to Dr. Jones, I may have had a better response. But you made me stay with Dr. Indelicato, so I'm not happy about that. At the NFL and at the professional level, it's written into the collective bargaining agreement that athletes not only are allowed to, but strongly encouraged to go see second opinions.
Sorry, Dr. B. And I guess what I'm trying to, bridge the gap for those layman's in there. It's just that it's the information, right? It's this, the athlete now has an option. Do you think that the fact that they have the means to go independently or to go look for things or to find other doctors, is that going to play in, or is that just a silly statement because it's got to be the team doc? Just like in the off season to get a better, I don't know, hey, this isn't as bad as it looks, or this is a second opinion. Because if it has a dollar amount attached to it, and we don't have collective bargaining in college sports,
not yet.
But I mean, we're not. Look, we're just trying to figure out the playoff system right now for next year. So pump the brakes. But where does that put us? Because I grew up the son of a sports writer, and I knew when I saw stats on a player in college that you can probably take away 2 inches on his height and probably take off 10 pounds on his weight because they're always promoting a little bit bigger, faster, and stronger. Now that sort of means a lot more as information is concerned. Is that correct?
Well, I'm not sure what the question is there.
Well, I guess it's just about the information. It's about how the second opinion from the other doctor, they have the means now to go independently do that in the off season. Is that possible? Does that play into what?
They always had the means to go off to get a second opinion. I would, to be honest, for whatever reasons, they were discouraged to do so because they wanted to have control over the athlete's injury, operation, rehab program, and all that. But they were always allowed to. In fact, when I give my talk the pitfalls of being a team physician, one of the things that I comment on is that you should never discourage a second opinion. In fact, you should help the athlete secure a second opinion. And 99 out of 100 times, the people that they go to for a second opinion, Rob mentioned Jimmy Andrews, they're going to go to a Jimmy Andrews, and your opinion is only going to be reinforced by Jimmy Andrews 99.9% of the time. So in a way, it's reassuring to the athlete and to you as a doctor that more people are weighing in on the decision of what should be done.
Dr. Pete, there's some questions on here. I like this one from Shoney down in Valdosta, Georgia. Were you with the Giants when Bill Parcells was coaching?
No, long before that. I was involved with them in the early 1970s. I know I look only 25 years old, but I was there when Alex Webster was the coach for the New York Giants.
Gotcha. All right, another question. I'm sorry. From RS Sport, Dr. Pete, is it true that an athlete who tears an ACL is likely to sustain a similar injury to the opposite knee? And what can be done to lessen the chances of sustaining these injuries? Good question from RS Sports.
Well, yes, the answer is they're more likely to tear the ACL in a contralateral knee. I forget what it's like 4 or 5 times more likely to sustain a tear of the other knee. And the second part, what can be done to lessen the chances? Well, like you win the Nobel Prize in medicine, if you could figure that out. We're getting closer. We're getting closer to preventing ACL injuries. There are certain prehab or exercises that you can do that are now being looked at in a scientific method, but basically it's the lack of a synchronized co-contraction of your leg muscle that exposes that ACL to an injury. And we talk about athletes being stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. It's really not the leg is weaker. It's that these antagonistic muscles in the front and back of your thigh are not firing exactly in the exact millisecond as you plant your foot and cut. And I'm just talking about non-contact ACL injuries, not when a 380-pound lineman, hits you in the knee.
Another question, and thank you so much, because that we got to get you back on, because this is so I get questions all the time like this. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. You are. I'm gonna give you a compliment. I've got a friend in a group of Sigma News from Arkansas that meet in Little Rock. He's a 92-year-old doctor, and I was up there with him last October at Jim McClellan's house and Pat in Fayetteville, and they're watching right now out in Frisco, Colorado at 9,100 feet, probably a lot cooler than Memphis. But he said, he goes, I'm a physician. That's what I am. He goes, I like to be called a physician. You're a physician. And that's a compliment. The highest compliment any doctor has always said, to be called a physician. And thank you for answering. But Georgia had a running back who they actually asked allegedly to stop lifting weights because they were concerned about his agility. Are modern athletes putting too much muscle on their frames? And my 96-year-old dad's watching right now, Dr. Pete, and he said when he was growing up, he was a competitive weightlifter. They were like, be careful lifting weights. It'll make you less agile, less flexible. So this is an age-old question. Long answered.
Yeah, I don't think building muscle mass in and of itself exposes you to certain risk, maybe certain risks. It's more of technique on how to lift rather than the amount that you lift that exposes you to an injury or a chronic overuse injury. When it comes to specific injuries like knee injuries, as I said, it's pretty complicated. Muscle strength is certainly important, not only to protect your knee, but to do what you want to do. But it's the ability for that muscle to contract in such a timely manner that that can actually expose your ligaments to your knee to some injury.
Yeah, Dr. Pete.
Dr. Pete, I just wanted to know the onset of AI in athlete and sports. Do you seeing any of that come to play in what the changing of the landscape going forward for what you all do?
Yeah, AI being as pervasive and as important it is, I can't imagine it not having some role in not only helping team physicians manage injuries, but also prevent them and help the athlete get the correct information. The scary thing about AI, again, when it comes to sports medicine, is you really don't know the validity of some of the things that are being asked. If the question is not asked properly, the answer may not be appropriate to what you're trying to get. And
wow.
And here's the other thing about it. This is sort of pontificating a little bit now.
Mm-hmm.
Is that anything that interferes with the personal relationship between a doctor and the athlete is probably not good. And AI and the internet and Google and all those things, they have a potential to interfere with the relationship. And the relationship between a doctor and an athlete, doctor and his patient, is critical, absolutely critical in influencing the outcome of whatever it is you're being managed or being looked at for.
Dr. Pete, you look at so many athletes today, they're zeroing in on one sport, sometimes two. I know from my experience in middle school with my kids' sports for 14 years, 5th through 8th grade, coaching cross country and track and field, two things I heard a lot about. I don't ever remember it. Hodgkins, Slaughters, and Severs. And then you look at these kids, and especially the girls in the fall, and they're playing volleyball, soccer, and cross country. And we get those kids running 7 miles by the time we go to the state championship, which we did 13 of my 14 years coaching. And they don't think they can do it, and they can do it. But what are your thoughts on that? Because, I mean, Brendan's got a daughter playing soccer, and, I've got 4 kids. Now, they're past team sports, but I'd like to hear your take.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt, this has been proven over and over again, that sports specificity at too early an age is not good, both from a physical and from a psychological standpoint. Multidisciplinary sports develop different parts of your body. I think if you were to query a majority of successful professional athletes, a lot of them would say, well, credit the fact that they didn't play a single sport all through grade school, and elementary school, and high school. And that's one of the things that helped them develop, is the fact that they were multi-sport orientated.
Yeah.
The other thing that's critically important is again, this has been proven also, is to get away from all sports for at least a month or two every year, because that not only gives your body but your brain a chance to take a rest. And this is really getting more and more obvious, the need to take a break.
Yeah, that's great, because I was just going to ask you that. My daughter plays competitive travel soccer. I played sports growing up. She's she's excited. She likes it. She's almost 13. Been doing it for 3 years. The season's insanely long, right? It's 10 months, 11 months.
Right.
She's got like, and I'm looking at her at the end of the season. She's got nagging injury, right? Just little nagging injuries that I know as an athlete, those become things after time. So the first thing when we hit the summer, I was like, look, you need to rest. Like, you need to rest. I'm like, we're not doing any drills. We're not going running. We're not doing anything. You're going to just sleep and rest those injuries and not do soccer, because I don't want you to burn out mentally. Like, because that it gets boring after a while. Right. And I thought that was a great take. I think other parents need to listen to you, doctor. I think you need to get that information out, because people think, no, we got to hit them harder in the off season. This is where you're going to get, look, they're 13 and 12 years old. Calm down. Calm down a little bit.
Yeah.
And they may not like it. And I'll guarantee you're going to burn that kid out, and they're not going to want to play soccer in the next 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah.
And I just think that's unfortunate, because it's really the coach and the athlete, or the coach and the parent, pushing them to constantly be better.
Yeah. I mean, I think in all honesty, parents somewhat abdicate their responsibilities in overseeing this part of their kids' development. For whatever reason, the traditional, well, I'm living vicariously through my son's sporting activity to be the athlete I wish I was and never became, or both parents are working, so put them in a AAU program, so that that's sort of like babysitting.
Yep.
For whatever reason, parents need to think really hard about what they're. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love sports. Sports is great.
Yeah.
But you've got to be a little holistic about it. A lot of us have been.
Dr. Pete, Dr. Andrews will back you up on what he said. They did a study on the Super Bowl, the Chiefs against the Tampa Bay Bucks about 4 years ago. And he said on this show, he said, of the players on both rosters, like 108 in the Super Bowl, they carried extras. 95% of them played 3 sports or more. Tom Brady played more than that growing up out in the Bay Area in California. And another thing he said, Dr. Andrews said, for goodness sakes, take off a couple of months. He said, let your body rest. It's not don't do anything, but I told you I ruptured a quadricep by not resting. And I'm a triathlete. I can say my friends that are the marathoners, most of them have had knee replacements. The triathletes, you need to be out as much as possible spreading the word, because I'm with Brenden. Parents need to hear this, because there's so many of them. The dad's sitting on the tailgate of the truck drinking a cold beer, watching you practice every sport he wishes he or she was better at. They're living vicariously. So before we let you go, just say whatever, but what a treat, Dr. Pete. I know that sounds corny.
Let me sort of build a little bit what you said. I don't know what the data is now, but not that long ago, somebody said how many Little League championship pitchers were there that made it into the major leagues, not farm league, but made it to the majors. And you can count it. They said you can count it on one hand.
Less than 1%.
Yeah.
Wow.
Less than 1%. I saw that. It's less than 1% of those athletes have become. So, it's like the Michael Jordans of the world, right? The ones that are great, they peak later in when their body develops, right? And they develop around themselves. Dr. Pete, just lastly, I wanted to touch on the psychology of sports. I know, it's different, but I see so much of that now. Is that more a part of the discussion, the visualization, the not manifestations, but I'm talking about your daily, just sit down and visualize what you're doing, see yourself being successful, see your future self scoring the touchdown, striking out the batter. Do you guys get into that world at all, or?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've written articles about the psychology of athletes. What happens to an athlete psychologically after he or she gets injured, and how they go through these different phases of denial, anger. It's almost like a death. How they get isolated, how they feel like they let the team down. I mean, there's all sorts of bullet points that that need to be looked at, and we as team physicians need to do a better job of realizing that there's more to my job than to fix this guy or lady's ACL. I mean, I've got to realize that ACL has occurred in a person that had pre-existing psychological profiles that may or may not affect that athlete's ability to go back and play. And I'll just say an example. Fear of re-injury, all right? Fear of re-injury is the most likely deterrent from getting an athlete to go back and play after they tear their ACL. It's not that the knee is loose, that their leg is weak. All those things pale in significance to the fear of re-injury. And unless you take that into account during the recovery program, you're less likely to have that athlete return to the field of play.
Right, we got to wrap it up, but you are welcome anytime. And fantastic. You're
really
a physician. Yeah, really, we need more of you in America. I wish you were running a medical school to teach the new doctors about, seriously, because I have a good friend's son-in-law, Dr. Tyler Ellis, I told you about. He's 34, 14 years of undergrad medical school. He's been a year and change at Oxford Orthopedic in Oxford, Mississippi, and he's working with Ole Miss. But he is what I call in your line, and Dr. Andrews. Please let people know how they can follow you. And I'll tell you, the biggest age I see with sports, a mom told me this one time at swim practice, 15 and under wonders, and I said, when she goes, they get a driver's license at 16. They can tell you they're going to practice, but they're going in the parking lot and smoking pot and they ain't playing. You better be careful about making them love it. And we need more of you and Dr. Andrews out there, and let them know how they can follow you, and we'll have you back as soon as you can.
Enjoyed it.
Sir. Appreciate it, sir. Thanks, Dr. Pete.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
See you guys.
Great stuff,
Rob,
Brenden.
Dr. Pete doesn't use social media.
Okay.
I'm going to guess that for you. I don't think he wants anyone contacting him.
Wait. Let me say this.
He's like a rock star, that guy.
Let's ask my dad.
He's the best of the best.
I'm going to get my kids to say, hey, would y'all find Grandbob, my dad, on Instagram? He'd be, boy, speak English to me. Hey, look, let's say something about Landers Ford. Brenden, it is hot outside. You got to have the air conditioning working. Landers Ford at Poplar and Houston Levee. I'll be out there in a little while going to meet with a man out in Collierville today on the show. They are open every day of the week, 7 a.m., 7 p.m., except Sunday. Service department will pick you up, provide round-trip transportation. What do they got going on now? Freedom to upgrade on sedans, SUVs like the Broncos, the trucks, the F-150s, the Platinum, the King Ranch. Those Broncos, man, they are great looking. And I'll tell you, they've got the 25 expeditions in now. They'll take $500 off. Let them know you heard about it on SEC Sideline Sports Network. As for Brad Bellamy, the general manager, Kent Ritchie, Don Kitchens, the whole crew out there committed to the customer experience. And they're right down the street from Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square in Collierville. Hey, all the best looking boots for men and women. I wore my snake boots last night. I finished cutting grass about 10 o'clock last night because it's so hot. Got lights on the front of the John Deere, but they're open every day of the week except Sunday, 10 a.m., 6 p.m. Barber, Filson, SDS, Pendleton, Schaefer, Duckheads. They even got Duckhead Blazers. Hey, go out there, 10 a.m., 6 p.m., Monday through Saturday. All of our sponsors, like Web-Footed Kennels, Chris Aiken in Jonesboro, Arkansas. You can find them on the website. Great show, Brenden. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Most often, we see the faces right in the league. Go out and help somebody make a difference. See you tonight on this channel, The Brenden Martin Show, 9 p.m. Eastern. Good night, John Boy.
Good night, John Boy.